The night had barely surrendered to dawn when Dry Gulch began to breathe again slow, tight, and scared. A blood-red sliver of sunrise cut over the jagged ridges, throwing long, skeletal shadows through the dusty main street. It was the kind of morning when even the wind felt afraid to move, the kind that made a town whisper prayers it hadn't spoken in years. Eliza Callahan stood bound to the gallows post, her bare feet on splintered boards, the rough hemp noose brushing the bruised skin of her neck. The townsfolk watched her with a mixture of pity and dread. A murderer, they said. A wild outlaw's daughter, they whispered. A girl who'd brought death with her wherever she walked. Yet the baby in her arms, still warm, still small, still new to the brutal world, softened even the hardest hearts. She cradled him close, trying to hush his tiny whimpers. Her tears fell silently. She'd cried herself empty hours ago. The rope around her wrists cut deeper as she trembled, but she held her child steady, refusing to let him feel her fear. Sheriff Lucas Kane stood a few steps away, boots planted firm, jaw tight, eyes sharp with calculation. His Colt rested against the baby's temple, not hard, not cruelly, but with a clear message. One wrong move from the man he was waiting for, and everything would end before sunrise fully claimed the town. Kane wasn't known for kindness. He wasn't known for mercy either. He was known for doing what needed to be done, and right now, in his mind, Dry Gulch needed steel more than sympathy. The warning came first, as a distant rumble. Horses, many of them, Every head snapped toward the eastern road, dust rising, hoofbeats drumming like war. The sheriff didn't move his gun, didn't blink, just breathed slow. "They're here," he muttered. Eliza felt it too, a shift in the air, a familiar heaviness she'd known since childhood. The ground trembled beneath the approach of a man twice as feared as the law itself. Bear Callahan. The outlaw kingpin rode at the front of a 20-man column, his frame massive in the saddle, his coat flapping like black wings behind him. His hair hung wild, streaked with desert gray. His beard was braided with beads her mother once tied for him, back when life was kinder. His eyes, two hard embers, scanned the gallows and landed on her. That moment shattered him. He tried to hide it, but even the earth seemed to feel the tremor in his hands. He dismounted with heavy steps, the wooden boards creaking under his weight as he approached. The townsfolk backed away without meaning to. A man like Bear didn't ask for space, he created it. Kane tilted his Colt ever so slightly, just enough for Bear to see it. "One more step, Callahan," he said, voice flat as iron, "and this ends ugly." Bear stopped. The gang behind him fanned out, hands on rifles but waiting for his signal. Eliza's voice cracked. "PA, don't." He swallowed hard. That single word from her carved through him sharper than any bullet could. He forced himself to look at her. Look, her torn dress, her swollen ankles, the bruises from the jailhouse walls. The baby held so tightly he feared she'd crumble if she let go. He'd burned towns for less. He'd buried men alive for touching less than her shadow. But this was his child. "Eliza," he said quietly. "I'm here, I know," she whispered. "You know I'll get you out." Her lip trembled. "Not like this." Kane stepped forward, pressing the Colt a fraction closer. "Drop your weapons, Callahan. All of them, or the girl swings with the boy in her arms." The words struck the outlaw like a hammer. No man had ever dared threaten his blood. No man had lived long after trying. But Lucas Kane wasn't just any man, and Bear knew it. The street held its breath as the two titans stared each other down. "You're asking me to die," Bear said. "I'm asking you to choose," Kane replied. Bear looked at Eliza again. The noose, the fear she tried to hide, the baby she clutched like the last thread of life she had left. She had always been stubborn, fierce, too much like him for her own good. But she wasn't a killer. He knew it. Someone had framed her. Someone had set her up to take the fall for the rancher's wife's death. And someone in this town was praying Bear Callahan didn't figure out who. He lifted his Winchester slowly. The gang bristled. Kane's grip tightened. Eliza cried out, "Pa, no." But Bear wasn't aiming. He let the rifle fall. It hit the earth with a thud heavy enough to echo. Gasps rippled through the crowd. His hands rose, empty. Kane blinked, surprised but unwavering. "All your men too." Bear didn't look back. "Drop in, boys." For a full 2 seconds. No one moved. Then steel clattered across the dirt, one gun after another hitting the ground until the street glittered with abandoned metal. Bear knelt. He didn't beg, didn't speak, just lowered himself slowly until his knees met the dust. "I'm here for my girl," he said. "Do what you want with me, but let her walk." Kane hesitated, not out of mercy, out of calculation. This wasn't the way he expected the showdown to go. A man like Bear was supposed to fight to the last breath, drag half the town into the grave with him. Surrender wasn't in his nature. And yet here he was, kneeling for the life of one woman and her child. Just then, a shift flickered behind the sheriff. A shadow stepping from the alley, a glint of steel raised toward Bear's back. Asterisk Eliza's scream tore through the air. "Pa behind you." Asterisk Kane spun instinctively. A gunshot cracked. The would-be betrayer, Deputy Kane trusted, collapsed with a bullet through his chest. One of Bear's men holding the smoking pistol. Chaos exploded. The gang dove for their weapons. Townsfolk scattered. Kane shouted orders. Horses reared. Dirt burst from bullet strikes. The sky filled with screams, curses, thunder. Asterisk Bear lunged up, ripping the noose from his daughter's neck with his bare hands. Kane fired at the outlaw rushing him, then turned toward Eliza, but Bear was faster, grabbing his newborn grandson and pulling both mother and child behind him like a shield of iron. Asterisk Kane steadied his Colt on Bear again, but for the first time that morning, doubt flickered behind the sheriff's eyes. The baby cried. The wind shifted. Asterisk and the two men, giants of opposite worlds, in the center of a storm neither could fully control. Asterisk the gunfire slowed. The gang stood poised. Kane's deputies held their ground. The town was split in two by fear and gun barrels. Bear spoke first. "No more threats," he growled. "No more lines crossed. We end this, right?" Asterisk Kane didn't lower his gun, but he didn't raise it either. "Then tell your men to stand down." Asterisk they will when yours do. Asterisk for a long, breathless moment, nobody moved. Asterisk then the baby whimpered again, small and fragile. Asterisks that sound the soft cry of a life. Too new to understand, danger broke. Something in the air. Kane exhaled. "Let's talk," he said quietly. Bear nodded once. "Not victory." Asterisk not. "Surrender." Asterisk just the first step toward. The first crack in a betrayal waiting to spill blood across Dry Gulch. Asterisk the sun climbed higher, turning the dust to gold, as father, daughter, sheriff, and infant faced the long road ahead, one where justice, mercy, and vengeance tangled like barbed wire at every turn. Asterisk and the West watched, silent and breathless, knowing this day would be remembered as long as men told stories.